our time as
time to shine.
Yeah, it is. I feel like it is like we're like sex workers are like celebrities. And
big part of this. I mean, I love sex, right? That's I love fucking.
I know.
That's a big part of the reason why I'm going to enjoy this podcast because it's a. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Sex with Mark and Kat.
Welcome.
Okay, so my name is Markus Wolf. I'm an international sex coach, and I'm here with Kat.
I am Katija Cortez. That's a bit of a mouthful, so everyone just calls me Kat or KC. I am an international independent escort.
Perfect. So what's up, guys? Welcome to the podcast. And we want to, in this first episode, just go through a few things, let you know what we're about. So I guess, Kat, what do you think inspired you to be a part of this podcast and to create it?
Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of space for talking about sex and even sex workers and things, because even though what we do is kind of different, it's still really the sex industry, right? And I think now is the sex industry's moment. I really feel like it is our moment. 10 years ago, I feel like it was still quite kind of taboo. And even though it is kind of still a little bit taboo, I feel like just after COVID and the whole rise of OnlyFans, I feel like now it's just like it is our time.
Time to shine.
Yeah, it is. I feel like it is like we're like sex workers are like celebrities and superstars now.
I love it.
Yeah, like so I really do feel like it's our time now, like a revolution to, you know, where sex workers can go out in public and don't have to hide and make fake names and whatnot. And yeah, so I feel like it's part like this podcast will shine a light on sex workers and also talk about really important things in the industry, because I think because it was so taboo, there is so many gaps in the knowledge that people have because it's just not spoken about.
Okay,
right?
cool.
What about you? What do you think?
So I like that. I like how proud of you are about that identity. And yeah, I think that is a big part of this. I mean, I love sex, right? I love fucking.
I know.
That's a big part of the reason why I'm going to enjoy this podcast, because it's a chance to really, for me, catch up with someone that is proud of their sexuality and wants to, I guess, allow other people to be just as proud of their sexuality as well. I mean, we're going to talk about in a sec our upbringing, but we both grew up in an environment which was, you know, sex was shamed essentially, and it's looked down upon, and especially something around sex work, whether it's coaching in my point of view or escorting in your point of view, it's previously has been very much shamed and looked down upon. So
frowned upon.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, I think this podcast is a chance for us to get together, talk about sex, which is a topic that we both fucking love and talk about anyway. But
this is literally just like a normal conversation.
Exactly, this is our regular Wednesday. But it's also a chance for everyone else to join that conversation, because I think everyone out there is in a friendship circle or is in an environment or is in a social circumstance where they can't be free to talk about sex. They can't go about it. And the sex education they received is, let's be honest, is fucking shit.
Yes.
Most of the guys you're with are fucking shit. Most of the girls I'm with aren't able to express themselves to their fullest. And I think a big part of that is leading to people to feel that sense of shame, to not have the amount of pleasure that they can really unlock and really enjoy. So I think for us, it's going to be just that first step into allowing people to talk about sex, be a little bit more free about it, but also learn some of the insights from a sex worker and from a coach, and to get some little tips and tricks along the way, to hear some stories, can be entertaining and educational. So I think, it's going to be a fucking amazing podcast. And I hope you guys enjoy it. And I want to speak to you, Kat, about what we just spoke to, about your upbringing. How did you get to where you are now?
Yes, so my upbringing. I was raised, which you'll hear in a minute, Mark and I were both raised in a very similar neighborhood in Sydney. Lots of wogs. So,
yes, a lot of Europeans.
Yeah, lots of Europeans. And if you are European, or if you know a European, you know that they're quite Catholic, very conservative. Yes. Sex is to make babies.
Yep.
And that's
it.
Yep. And even for probably the better part of my life, I was told that I was dropped off by a stork. So I Yeah, so I grew up in a family where sex was just not spoken about. So this is a fun story. So when my mum found out that I wasn't a virgin, she cried.
How old were you when your mum found out?
I was young. I think I was like 16 or 17.
What age did you lose your virginity? Actually?
14.
Okay, you were young, yo.
Oh, did I beat you?
You did by a few years, I must say. I was either 16 or 17. I can't quite remember. I was old.
Yeah, but I feel like I don't know.
I was old compared to you. Jesus.
Yeah, I've done it many times.
So I'm impressed. Okay. So I didn't know what sex was when I was 14.
So I had a boyfriend who I had been at the time that I was 14 and I lost my virginity. I was dating a guy for a whole year.
Mm-hmm.
And he was 1 year older than me. So he would have been like 15, which is probably more around the time when guys would maybe start thinking about those things.
Yep.
We'd been dating for a year. We'd done a few, like everything else. And then I remember one of his best mates was also dating a girl for like a year. We were like the what's it called? You know, we're two couples. Friends. Yeah, so that's like what we were. And then they had sex. And then
so
that
you
kind
were
of,
like, expectation.
we didn't think about it until they did it. And then we're like, oh, maybe we
why haven't we done it yet?
Exactly. Like, why aren't we doing it? And then it was a very bonding, it was actually a really nice way to lose my virginity, I think. Okay. Yeah, we saw like how our friends seemed more bonded by it, and we were like, oh, like, we've been dating for like a year now. We're going to get married, which, when you date for 1 year as a 14-year-old, that's like a 17 years.
Yeah, you love them to the moon and back, right?
We were literally fully, we're like, we're going to be getting married and having sex anyway.
Yeah, so we might as well.
Yeah, so that's how that happened. Bit of a tangent, but back to my upbringing. Oh yeah, so when my mum found out that I wasn't a virgin, I was like, I want to say 16. I don't think I had a license yet. She cried harder and didn't speak to me for a lot longer than when she found out that I had done drugs.
Holy shit,
she had found out that this is like on another occasion she found out that I snuck out of the house almost every night.
Yep.
Didn't get angry. Found out that I had done drugs before. Didn't get angry. Finds out I'm not a virgin. Didn't talk to me for like 3 months.
You could probably kill a man. And she's like, as long as you didn't have sex, okay? It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, so that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea.
How did she find out?
The condom was in the bin and I was 16. Who thinks about those kinds of things?
No, it's right. No, I've when I was a little bit older, not 14, but I got done the same way. I think my parents found like condom wrappers and stuff.
You're so dumb.
You just don't clean up after yourself.
No, I couldn't even load a dishwasher, let alone know how to clean up after having sex.
I kind of blame the guy though. I think it's the guy's responsibility to get rid of the condom wrap.
You blame the guy?
So, okay, let me ask you this. If a guy comes
over
to your place, has sex, does he leave his condom wrappers?
Is this a client?
No. Okay.
Because I clean up after all my clients, but they technically
paying.
They're paying for
if I was going to pay for sex, I'd want you to clean up after me.
Yeah, exactly.
But say personal life. Guy comes around.
Yeah, personal life. Well, I would think that if it you know what? That's kind of a tricky one because if it's in my house, I feel like I'm so proud of my house that I clean up. It doesn't even have to be sex. Like you've come over to my house before. This is a
very
and you house, see me. Yeah. I never sit down. I'm always cleaning. Like you will take a sip from a drink, and I will come up to you and be like, "Is that finished? Can I wash it?"
It's very attentive. I do appreciate it.
So that's
okay.
So I feel like they probably wouldn't even have the chance.
Okay,
because I would probably just straight up like if the condom's on the floor, I'll just get up and pick it up because I would just. That's what I would do in my house. But if I was in another, I probably wouldn't if I was at their place. I feel like the only reason I would do that is not because I'm
it's
a
like
girl.
Your home.
It's because this is my house. I don't want condom wrappers and lube all over the shop.
Do you know what? That's a good point. It's like I'm usually having sex in my place. That's why I'm probably thinking about this. So I always clean. But can I be honest with you though? I've slept with a lot of women, right? Like over 500.
I've heard it sometimes.
Yes. There was one girl, South African. I won't mention her name in case she watches this podcast.
Yeah,
but
I haven't met this one. Okay.
So she's a nice girl. You haven't met her, but
I'm thinking there's a reason why.
This was years ago, though. Years ago. No, she's amazing. She's amazing. Years ago, I remember we met in like Croatia or something. I can't remember where, but anyway, we fucked in the Airbnb. And, I just took off my condom, threw it on the floor, all those wrappers. And we were just like lying in bed. She gets up, grabs a condom on the wrapper, walks over and puts it in the bin. And I remember thinking in that moment, I'm like, there has never been a girl that has cleaned up my condom after me. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the greatest girl. I can't believe this is incredible. Yeah. And now I just found out you do that too. So that's, I'm very impressed.
Yeah, I definitely do. Yeah.
Okay. So where were we?
That's right. So
your
Upbring
mum.
still,
Yes, yeah, your mum. So she found out through the condom wrapper that wasn't cleaned up.
Literally didn't talk to. I feel like our relationship. I think she properly ignored me for at least about 3 weeks, and then probably for 2-ish months after that, it was like.
And she didn't speak to you about it, right? Like there wasn't a sit-down discussion?
She
or was
did
just...
when she found it. There was a lot of screaming and throwing shit. Some of it hit me. Like it was just...
Your mum's beating you up.
Yeah. So, and then after that, we didn't talk for like a week. And then we slowly started talking, but it was literally just like, oh, dinner's ready.
Okay, yeah. Get down and eat.
Yeah, it's time to go to school now. Okay. Like that was it for about 2 months after the 3 weeks of literally not talking. Well, yes, that's kind of my upbringing.
I've got a question though. Yeah. I'm sorry, Kat. I've got more questions. You lost your virginity at 14.
Yeah.
How was it? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was odd. It was so nice. So
it
as
was
I was
magical.
saying, no, it was. I have said this to so many people, especially like when not so much now because I don't really know anyone who isn't a virgin, right? But back then, everyone was a virgin except for me. I was one of the first people I knew that lost it, other than that one friend, like the couple. Other than them two, people my age or like I have like younger like family members, I didn't know anybody else that lost it. And it was maybe like a year later, I started getting a few friends, or however much later, started getting a few friends that started just losing it to like randoms at parties and things. And then they would like fall in love with the guy, and then the guy would like never talk to them again.
Guys are assholes,
yeah. Well, especially when you're that age, right? Yeah. Like that's just, I'm not trying to justify it. It's a terrible thing. But at that age, that is, I know it's bad and it shouldn't happen, but especially back then, we're talking like 10 years ago. That's just how it was 10 years ago. That's what happened. And they would get devastated about it. And the way I lost it, even though it was like looking back, it probably wasn't good sex, but at the time it felt like good sex because we loved each other. We thought we were going to get married. I think I want to say we lit candles and stuff. Like we planned it. Like,
I was about to ask for the candles.
It was planned. So we knew, like we had the day planned that he like came over and like
were your parents like out or something?
Oh, they would. I think they were asleep. They were. I mean, I was. Yeah. Or maybe they were out.
Yeah.
They were not around for long enough. So they were either asleep or they were out somewhere.
So
I can't exactly remember.
So you had some candles lit.
We had privacy to do it. Like we knew there was going to be privacy to do it. And I want to say we had like a little lamp maybe, and maybe some fairy lights and music. Yeah, like we set the mood because we knew it was going to happen. But this is something that's really funny. I actually wrote a blog post about the first time I lost my virginity. It's in quite detail because the one thing I can remember, so even it was all really good and nice and cute, and we loved each other. We still stayed together for a little bit after that. And the reason why we broke up had nothing to do with having sex. I don't know if you had this issue, maybe not because it was a little bit older. So we didn't realize that we had 2 hiccups. So the first was that and he had quite a large penis, which looking back, I now know. But at the time, how was I supposed to know if it's big,
it was just
small?
A penis, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, it's the first one, you don't know.
I didn't know that they came in different shapes and sizes.
Exactly,
That was the only way. It was penis. Quite girthy and long looking back. So this is clearly why we had this next problem. So we tried to put it in. So I think that, okay. So, no. Okay, first, actually, let me rewind a bit. The first problem we had was we were like grinding on top of each other and we thought it just magically went in.
Okay.
We didn't realize you had to...
like put it in.
Yep.
Okay.
We didn't...
So he was like eyes closed, just moving his hips around thinking...
We were both doing that for, I reckon...
This is just going to go in.
A minimum half an hour.
Okay.
We were like wiggling around on top of each other.
This is hilarious.
So, and then after half an hour, we're like, what the fuck is going on?
I would just love to know what you're both thinking. Like you're sitting there thinking, is it going to go in soon? He's thinking, what the fuck do I do? And as a guy, right? I don't know if you know this.
He should have watched porn and should have known.
Yeah, but in porn, do they really show? Like they just...
It does, but I don't think you take notice of things like, oh, his hand is grabbing his cock now.
To be fair, in the 14-year-old guy's defense, the sensation around your penis, especially like when was he wearing a condom or not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when wearing a condom, you don't feel like your fingers do, let's say, right? So if I'm going to finger you and I'm like blindfolded, not a problem in the world, right? But if you just have your cock and you're blindfolded and you're like, what is your cock touching? It's hard to know. I'm being serious here. It's hard to know. You don't have the sensation. So you do need a hand to guide you a little bit or your eyes to guide you. So if he's just wiggling around, I don't blame the guy for not knowing what the fuck he's doing, right?
Yeah,
especially
well,
as a 14-year-old.
At that time, I didn't watch porn, I don't think.
Okay,
I don't know why. I don't think I watched. I don't even think I was masturbating at that time. I don't know. Maybe I was. I can't really remember at what age I started doing that.
And this is what we're going to talk about in a second, which is sex education. And so you essentially have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah. So we had zero idea. So that was the first problem that we had was we didn't realize that you had to put it in. And then
this is awesome.
Kind of something clicked to one of us, and we're like, maybe we need to
like guide it a little bit.
Yeah. So I think he was like, and like. Doing a few, and we're like,
it wasn't going in.
Like, we didn't realize that vaginas and penises are not necessarily this.
He had a big cock.
Yeah, it was like I was like a little triangle, and he was like a circle. Like
trying to. Okay.
Yeah. So we were like, oh, okay.
So what now?
Yeah. So he just kept fingering me with one finger and then two, and then I think he got to like 4, and then this is like another hour had gone past, and after he got like the 4th one in, we're like, do you reckon it's stretched?
It's about time,
yeah. And after I'm small now, so I must have been much smaller even then.
Well, he instinctively did the right thing, right? Like an hour of foreplay. Right? No, but I mean, really, right? Instinctively, like that's
technically that is what you would do. But so that's how that happened for me.
That's okay.
I'm curious to hear about your story.
But hang on, but it was, even looking back now, it was amazing.
No, yeah, it was.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, so I told everyone back then to lose it to someone that you kind of with for the first time, if possible.
Yeah.
Just because I've seen it happen too many times where a girl would lose it to a random at a party. And at that age, guys at that age, they're not mature enough to I don't want to say all guys, but maybe, and look, I haven't been a young person since I was a young person.
Yeah.
I don't know if things are different now because there's a little bit more education. We're talking about a time before social media.
Yeah, that's true.
I lost my virginity at a time.
We are both very, very old. Everyone.
Yeah. So we're talking, this is a time before social media. I don't even think maybe we had YouTube, but I don't think there would have been people talking about sex on YouTube.
True. That's true.
iPhones didn't even exist at this time.
That's very true.
Yeah. So I don't even think phones had internet. So this is a different time that I'm talking about.
I think when it comes to losing virginity, like if there are women listening to this that are perhaps a little bit younger or haven't lost their virginity yet, there's a little bit of advice I usually give, which is one of the 2 points, which is either do it with someone that you trust, you're with, you respect, you know that essentially you're going to leave that encounter and situation better than when you came into it. Right. And you can usually rely on that happening if it's someone that you've been dating for a while, someone you know, someone you trust. The other thing I encourage is it's also okay to lose your virginity to someone you just met. That's completely fine. Only if you have the right mindset behind it. If you're going into sex for the first time, worried that you're going to lose something. Like, I don't even like the term lose your virginity.
Yeah.
Like, you're not losing anything.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's gaining an experience. So I don't think about losing experience. I think like you gain sexual experience, which is to me like
I like
sex,
that frame of mind.
Yeah, it's much better, right? And it's like, why do we make such a distinction about a penis going inside your vagina? Like really, sex is tying someone up, it's eating their pussy, it's choking them a little bit, it's dirty talk, it's fingering them. Like, why is there such a distinction about you putting this part of your body into someone as opposed to this part of your body into someone? Like, we make such like an emotion, and it's guided by religion most of the time, but I think really you need to, if you're a girl, look at it as I'm gaining an experience. And you need to understand, if you're at a party and you met some guy that you're into and you want to have sex with him that night, great. But if he doesn't want to see you again, fuck him. Who cares, right? Like, you need to go into it with that mindset of, this is a cool guy that I'm sexually attracted to. I don't know him that well, but maybe he's very experienced. Maybe he knows I'm a virgin. Maybe he's happy to guide me through that. I'm going to gain this experience. If he wants to see me again and I want to see him again, great. If not, not. Now, if you can't go into it like that, if you're someone that finds yourself getting very attached very early, if you're someone that finds you put this huge identity around yourself being a virgin, then yeah, you're going to have to wait to someone that you're like with and someone that you trust. But I really encourage everyone to shift your point of view around this. You're gaining experience. Do it with someone that knows what they're doing, so you actually have a good first time, right?
Good first time.
And yeah, I think it's fine that way. But all right, a little bit about my upbringing, I guess.
and your first time. Let's hear about that.
So essentially my upbringing is very similar. Went to a Catholic school, so sex education. Boys? No, it was co-ed actually. It was co-ed, but I mean, I was very shy as a kid, and sex education. Yeah,
you shy?
Yeah, you didn't know this?
No.
Oh yeah, when I was in high school. Yeah, I was like the nerdy kid. I was like going to library at lunch and studying.
No.
Swear to God. Yeah, swear to, I was.
So you weren't extroverted?
No, I was extroverted with my nerdy friends.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I was in the library studying and playing computer games, I was extroverted.
Yeah, right.
But if you put me around anything else, I wasn't.
Yeah, okay.
So it took me a while to break out of my shell and have the personality that I guess I do now. But it was fear-based education, as you know. It's don't have sex. You're gonna get an STI and it's gonna be awful. You're gonna get someone pregnant. Don't do it before marriage. That's a sin. So it was all this just fear-based. Don't have sex. That was the education. Just don't fuck, right?
Yep.
Because if you do, everything bad's gonna happen. And there was nothing around pleasure, how to have sex good, how to masturbate, nothing, right? So my first time was when I was 16 or 17, and again I was with a girl I'd been seeing for a very long time.
Really?
Yeah. Well, what felt like a very long time, probably a year. And the interesting part is that because of that education, because of that upbringing, I actually thought women didn't like sex. Like that's inherently what I kind of thought.
Why?
I don't know exactly.
Did
I think
boys
it was
like sex?
Yeah,
Okay.
My perception was
it was a boy thing.
Yeah, my perception was guys get pleasure from this, but girls just kind of let you do it. That's what I thought as a 16-year-old. I just thought like if a girl likes you enough, she'll let you have sex with them.
You know what I think that could be? I think that could be like having European. Did you ever like? I don't know if like your like grandma or mum would ever say things like this, but I remember definitely hearing my grandma being like, "Oh, like yeah, you know, your grandfather would like come on to me, and I used to pretend I was asleep and things like." Yeah,
well,
so
that's
maybe
definitely
that's
the narrative in
Yeah.
like Hollywood, right? So it's definitely the narrative like TV shows I'm watching, movies I'm watching. I get told at school that sex is bad and horrible and no one likes it. And so yeah, I did have this. I'm sure there's a part of me that thought, okay, there's some girls that probably enjoy, but my big thing was that like I want to be this very respectful guy that didn't want to pressure a girl into having sex. And that was kind of my narrative. And so when I was with this girl, we were doing other things, right? We were like hooking up. I was like eating her out, things like this, like fingering her. But sex was something that I wanted to wait and make sure she was ready for. She was also a virgin, right? So now that I look back, this girl wanted to fuck, yo. This girl wanted some dick. And
so she gave you all the signs.
Yeah.
And, okay.
She kept, hey, like, do you think we should do it? And I'm like, no, I want to wait till you're ready. She's
Really?
She's like, I think I'm ready. I'm like, well, I think isn't good enough, right? I want to know till you're 100% sure.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah.
Wow.
Like now that I look back, I'm like, this poor girl was like trying, but again, sexual shame, right? Like she didn't want to look like a slut and be like, I want to fuck, especially when I'm projecting this, like, no, I want to wait. So it's like hard for a girl to be like, yeah, let's fuck. And the guy's like, no, we should wait till we're ready. And then for her to be like, no, let's do it now.
Yeah.
Like now you look.
You probably made her feel so bad.
Yeah. Now that I look back, I was probably like shaming her like crazy without realizing it. And so anyway, eventually.
That is so interesting.
Eventually, I think she just got to a point where she's like, I'm fucking ready. Like, let's go. So then, so similar story. Like she really wanted it to be special. So she had this plan of like candles, all this like stuff. But then there was just one night where my parents went home and it was hilarious. Like, because she had this plan of like everything that she wanted to make it romantic and special. And I think I even brought this up. I was like, you sure you want to do it tonight? Like we don't have the plan. And she's like, oh, but there's moonlight. Like, that's very romantic. She like opens up the blinds. So like, this girl's just doing anything to like make this plausible. And so then we had sex, and I realized I had to put my penis inside of her. So I was like one step ahead.
You knew that? Yeah.
I knew that. Yep. I was way ahead of you there. But
good work.
It was weird, I remember thinking, because I didn't know what to expect. I guess I was expecting something a lot more.
Was it underwhelming?
It was underwhelming.
Oh.
Yeah. Because I was just kind of like, okay, that's sex. And it was, it's really hard to describe. Like, it was physically enjoyable, but it didn't last that long. I was young, didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
Yeah, obviously.
And like, there was some like obviously emotion there, but yeah, I remember thinking, okay, that's it. Like, I remember just building up in my head for so long, and I was like, okay, that's sex. And to be honest, like, now, holy shit, now I enjoy sex so much more because I have the tools to be able to enjoy it. Like, back then, as I said, like, I ate her out, put my penis inside of her, thrusted, and then after a few minutes came and we're like, okay.
Yeah. It is a bit more than that when you reach a level.
Now there's so many more tools you can use. And like, I enjoy not only the emotional journey of sex, but the physical journey of sex so much more now than I ever have. So yeah, it was slightly underwhelming, if I'm honest, my first time. But yeah, I guess I'd like to talk a little bit about sex education and how we do learn about sex. And in your case, as you're saying, like, I didn't even watch porn, and maybe he didn't, and the upbringing, you didn't know anything. And so how did you learn more about sex? And because I guess the reason I want to talk about this
question
is I want this podcast to be the sex education that people never got, essentially. Like,
I never got anything.
Listen, Kat,
nothing.
we're going to be the parents. We're going to be the new parents of all our listeners.
Are you calling me old?
No, listen. You're going to...
I would prefer big sister.
All right, you can be I'm going to be the daddy, okay?
You are slightly older than me, so...
I'm a lot older, but thank you for the compliment. All right, but essentially what I'm saying is...
parents, all right.
Age out of the situation. I want us to be able to give the sex education to people that they've never had. I want them to be able to ask the questions that have never felt like they've been able to ask. And so I guess my question for you is, how did you learn about sex?
Gosh, it's a hard and interesting question. Like, so the things that I enjoy about sex, I think, and the way that I like to have sex took me probably over a decade to kind of realize. But I feel like I always knew that I wanted to explore those avenues. There just wasn't opportunity for me to explore those avenues. So when I was a teenager and I started having sex, it was like what you were saying before, very mediocre. It was, okay, there's a bit of foreplay, but like even the foreplay is a bit like, okay, it's just like a bit of that, a bit of kissing, and that's kind of it. So, but I mean, it still somewhat felt good. But as I probably started getting into my later teens, and probably would have started watching porn more regularly, I think, secretly, because I couldn't, you couldn't tell people that you were watching porn even though you were. Yeah. So I don't think I ever...
That's so interesting, isn't it? Like, I feel like growing up, or even now, like, a lot of people watch porn.
I think like, almost
everyone watches porn.
Yeah.
Yet, when we were younger, or even now for people, it was so taboo to say that.
I remember being almost traumatized at school, at the bus bay, like when I was in high school. I would have been in like year 7 at this time. And the first time I ever saw porn was like some guy that was in my grade had like pulled it up on his phone and was like showing everyone. So this must have been maybe one of the first phones that had internet, because I think it was very magical that we were playing something on a phone back then, because that was, even that in itself was like, wow, look at this video on this phone. Like,
yeah, exactly.
So everyone was crowded around. I was like, oh, I want to see, like pushing through. And it was porn. And I was like, whoa. And then me and my girlfriend were like, what the fuck? Like that was the first time I ever seen it. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, like that's crazy. So yeah, I can't exactly remember when I started watching it. Yeah. But
maybe from there you were like, fuck, where do I find this
maybe.
Show? This is okay.
Yeah, I think, I think I did start watching porn when I was in, so okay, I'm getting back to our age. I don't think I had a smartphone back at that time to watch porn on. I don't I'm trying to think. So when I was in year 7, I'm not going to say what year that was.
We had like some Nokias back then.
Yeah, I'm not going to say what year it was.
We were playing Snake and shit.
The only way I could get internet was on the computer that was in the lounge room at my home because we didn't have iPads and iPhones.
Okay.
So I couldn't go and sneak off into my room with my phone and watch porn because that phones with internet.
So you're like a quick alt tabber. You're like, I'm just doing some homework.
Like my parents would watch TV, like I was like here, and then my parents were right there, so I like couldn't even watch porn. But I remember there were a few times I was kind of curious, and I think I just kind of like wanted to look, and I was like looking at my parents were like looking at the computer, making sure like they didn't see, but like I obviously couldn't watch it and masturbate with my parents sitting like 2 meters away from me.
That would be a bit risky.
It was. I started watching it frequently when smartphones came, like iPhones came out, and I could access it on a phone by myself in my bedroom or whatever. Okay. Well, I wanted to tangent again. So the question was, how did I learn about sex?
Yeah. So I guess, do you think porn helped you understand sex better?
I don't know if it helped me understand sex. Actually, I lie. I think it probably did. I feel like I think. You know what I find interesting is I think that the way people watch porn is different, and the way people are in the bedroom, I think, has something to do with how they process pictures maybe in their mind. So with me, the way I think, and I can think like in images in my mind. Not everybody can do that. And I can visualize a porn scene in my head. Like even if I'm not watching it. So I would watch porn and like look at a girl giving head or like look at how things are, and then I would remember that, and then I would like visualize that in my head when I was like having sex and be like, oh, okay, I remember she did this and she grabbed it here and she slobbered here and he put his hand there. So I would like.
So you're like mirroring it.
So I mirrored it, and I didn't realize until a bit later that I don't think people can do that, because otherwise, if everyone could do that, why so many people shit in bed? If it was so easy to watch porn, which I actually think this a lot. I think all the time, like, there's so much porn there, isn't it? Can't everyone just watch porn and then be good at sex? Okay. But that's not the case. Yeah. But I think that is how I learned to have sex. So it was two things. It was one, watching it, and then 2, practicing. But I was practicing based on what I had seen. So it was like, that was like my demonstration. And I'd go in the bedroom and be like, oh, I'm going to try this thing that I seen that girl do.
And then see how much of a reaction I get.
And you have to be good at reading people.
Yeah,
so I
that's
would
the thing.
Try a new thing, watch the guy, and then if he's like, if I can see he's enjoying it, I'm like, okay, I'm going to add that to my mental list of things that guys like. So if I touch this spot, or if I put my hand here or my tongue here, these are things that guys like. Okay. And I mean, that's why I'm a professional now, I think, because I have a very long list of things that I've worked out that guys like. I've got my own personal flavor to it.
No, I think that's the biggest thing, is the feedback, right? Being able to and I think that's what makes someone good in bed, honestly, is being able to interpret feedback well. This is what I tell all my students, is it's one thing to learn techniques, but you need to know what the girl wants or what your partner wants, and how well it's actually working, right? And the part of the problem is, especially like women are very good at faking pleasure, right? And guys, maybe not so much, but it's important to get real feedback. And if you're actually really good at like reading the feedback from guys, then that's how you get better. It's like experimenting, exploring, trying. And I think a lot of people shit on porn, which there's a place to shit on porn, but I think for a lot of people, especially my age, that's where they got a lot of their sex education from.
That is literally where mine came from.
And I think there's a threshold there. I think if you're like your boyfriend, for example, that has never had sex ever before and has no idea what he's doing, then watching some porn, which is usually, let's say, not the greatest or a little bit fake, is still better than nothing, right? And it still allows you to start exploring your sexuality, figuring out and that's where I learned mine from as well a little bit.
It's like a demonstration.
And as you said, speaking to your friends, like I remember when I had sex for the first time, I again had a friend two friends or something that had lost their virginity, and I was like, okay, boys, what do I do? what are the tips, right? Yeah. And so you got some tips off your friends. You watch a little bit of porn. My problem with porn now is that I think there's so many other amazing resources that you can use that if you were to compare it to porn is horrible because a lot of it is a little bit fake. Even the way they fuck, like I've had students before, like on camera, you'll notice a lot of the times the guys will fuck in a way that you can see the penetration. So they're never really over the girl, holding her tight and like grinding her like this, nice and close.
Fucking on camera is a little different.
Yeah, you can't see. So a lot of the guys will have one hand behind their back on an angle fucking. And sometimes I see students, I'll ask them about position, and they've got this position. I'm like, okay, this guy watches porn. And so he doesn't realize that he's actually using a position that is designed for the camera, but he doesn't realize that.
That is so interesting.
And so yeah, there's a lot of, and also my problem with porn is that for me, it's very penetration focused. Like it's depending on what type of porn you watch, obviously, but I think it doesn't allow for kink exploration a lot of the time. I think a lot of the pleasure comes across as a little bit fake, and so look, there's a lot of issues I have with porn, but I think it's, you know, when we were going through our sexual exploration, I think it was actually net benefit. It was actually kind of helpful.
I've got a question. So has the porn you watched changed over time? Like, are you into different, what's it called, categories? I think is what they would call it on those websites. Yeah. Is there one, obviously I'm sure you probably watch a little bit of whatever, but is there like one kind of category that maybe you started with and then you changed to, oh, actually, no, I like this better. And now I'm over that, and now I'm into whatever else. Yeah,
for sure. Like, so at the moment, I don't watch porn, actually. So, yeah.
Really? Yeah. Why is that?
So the reason is I like to use my imagination a little bit more, right? I think a part of the problem with too much porn as a guy is that it puts you into this state of like third person. So I always tell guys the way you masturbate should be the way you fuck. It should be like the practice ground. Because I always tell a lot of guys, like, if you just watch 5-minute clip of porn, go ham on your dick and come, then you do that every single day. And then 2 weeks later, you meet a girl and you're going to have sex. You've trained for the last 2 weeks, or for some guys for the last 10 years. And now you get into, like, you know, it was training, and now this is the actual game. Yeah. And now either you're very used to this super tight grip, or you're very used to being like third person, and it actually makes it either difficult to come, difficult to get hard, difficult to really be enjoying the moment and experience. And they've got a lot of studies on this, right?
I do actually see that happening a lot, where I've even been asked sometimes, and they're like, oh, like, grab it tighter. And I'm like, I literally can't.
Exactly. Because they're so used to just like a strong grip.
My arm will pop off if I grab it any harder. And they're like, yeah, but it's not hard enough. I'm like, I can't.
And that's why they've trained, right? They've trained for that. So I always try to tell guys, train, like, masturbate the same way that you'd want to fuck. If you want to be able to last for 20 minutes, then masturbate for 20 minutes. If you want to be able to get hard with the types of girls that you're fucking, then imagine those types of girls you're fucking. I even, like, for guys that have anxiety, I try to bring that anxiety into their masturbation practice. So if you're like worried, oh fuck, I wonder what she thinks of me, actually, like, envision that a little bit as you're masturbating, and like try to deal with that and process that through your masturbation habits. So for me, the only time I kind of watch porn is if there's something new I want to explore. So say a couple of years ago, or more than a couple of years ago, when I started to get into more BDSM, then I started watching a little bit more porn around that just to get an idea. And but right now, like, I rely on my imagination most of the time. Sometimes I'll read erotica, because again, I think that relies on the imagination a little bit more and is usually less vanilla than a lot of porn that's out there. So that's kind of my practice now, and it's kind of what I teach now. But I think there's a place for porn. I really think there's a place for porn. There's a place, especially depends on the types of websites you're going to and using, but there are websites that are based around kink that are very ethical, that do have, you know, consent, and the girls are well looked after. So there definitely is a place. There's a place for education around porn as well. So I think that's important. But yeah, I like that you brought up the fact around feedback. I think that's a huge deal. So was there anything else that influenced your sexual, let's say, journey?
Yeah, so I would definitely have to say it's when I started hanging out with you and the group.
Okay, let's go.
So we've been on so many tangents. So before that, before meeting you guys, and even before I got into this industry, I worked in like the financial services industry. So I went to uni. So this is the way that I was raised. Going back to upbringing, it was you go to primary school, and then you go to high school, and then you go to uni, and then you get married, you have children, and then you maybe become a grandparent probably, and then die.
Yep.
And that's it.
That's about it. Yeah. Enjoy your life.
Actually I forgot. And then included in all of that is you find a job that you will hate, and it's normal to hate your job, and that is fine.
Yep.
And it makes me laugh so much when I think back that I genuinely once upon a time believed that you were supposed to despise your job. Like you were supposed to go to work and cry.
Life. Yeah.
You were supposed to cry in the bathroom at work, and that was fine. And literally so when I worked in this financial services firm, we all cried in the bathroom. We used to like send Snapchats of each other crying, and we used to laugh at that. And
it was horrible.
It was normal. And we used to joke about like, oh, like we might have like maybe an accident and be like, oh, if I had just got hit by that bus, I'd be able to have a week off, And
when you get to the point where you wish you got hit by a bus to get a week off, you know that you need a new job.
So I didn't ever think about changing jobs because so everyone that I went to school with, everyone that I went to uni with, and everyone I was hanging out with at the time, that's what everyone thought. I didn't ever know anyone that had an alternative way of living. Okay. I knew that alternative ways of living existed, but I thought that was the lucky few that maybe had a dad that was famous and then got into acting or singing.
But it wasn't the norm.
It wasn't the norm. And again, this is a time when influencers and things didn't really exist. It wasn't as easy to get famous or get yourself out there back in those days. But back in those days, it really was. If you lived in LA, you'd be able to have opportunity. If you lived in New York, maybe you could publish a book or whatever, but
it wasn't in your reality.
No, and I didn't know anyone who did any of those things, and I would talk about hating my job, and my mum and everyone would just be like, well, why are you complaining? You're supposed to hate your job. Like that's normal. If you liked your job, that would be weird.
Yeah.
So and then I moved, so I always knew that I wanted more. I just didn't really know how or why or when, because the thought physically didn't come into my mind that I could do other things, even though I wanted to do other things, but I was like, oh, that's just didn't think about it. It's not an option. Then I moved to the city. That was probably like one of the most like transformative things, I think.
When did you move to the city? Was this during uni? Or?
Yeah, it was just over 2 years ago. So like 2 years and 2 months ago, I think. Yeah. So that's when I met, one of our friends who you would know. Yep. And then started hanging out with like your lot. And I mean, you have the job that you have, and in the group was, escorts, and I had never met an escort in real life.
Yeah, before. So just to give some context, so it's
maybe a context on our friendship.
Yeah, so essentially our social circle. I run a sex coaching company. And I had a very close friend that was also very sexually open. And then our group of girls that we were kind of seeing, so essentially me and this guy, our social circle was essentially girls we were seeing or girls we had seen. And of course, they were all very sexually open as well. And pretty much most of them were also working as escorts.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. Yeah. It just kind of did. Yeah. So I had never met one in the flesh before. To be honest, I had never met anyone who hadn't just gone to uni and gotten a job that they were miserable at. So all of a sudden I meet like you guys, and I was like, these are people that are living
just all partying of these, on weeknights.
Everyone had their own businesses, and everyone was just having sex so openly. So I remember you all talking about sex and me being like, oh my God, what? Yeah. Like, I think we tried to organize like a foursome.
Oh, should we tell everyone how we met?
Yeah, so this is actually how we met. And I drank like half a bottle of tequila before that.
Yeah, so I remember I was with a girl and I'd been seeing her for, I don't know, like a little while, let's say. And then... yeah, my friend, let's not mention his name, but
Close
Jack.
mutual. Jack, Jack.
So yeah, we lived in the same building, and I remember messaging him and being like, yeah, hey, I've got this girl, what are you up to? And he's like, yeah, I've got a girl over as well. And I'm like, all right, should we have like a foursome? Let's make this happen. And so yeah, that's essentially how we met. I remember my girl she started spanking you with a fry pan or something.
Yes,
yeah,
with some weapon.
Yeah, that was fun. So that's how we met.
Yeah, that is how we met. And I remember Jack like messaging me, telling me like, yeah, this is happening, just like it was nothing.
Yeah,
like, oh, you're coming over, we're gonna have a foursome. And I was like,
just normal Friday night.
I was like, oh my god, like, what do you? I'd never even have a threesome, like, let alone a foursome. Like, I never even got close. So at this time I didn't even talk about sex. Like, we're talking. This was a time when I literally thought I was like on my way to dying in this miserable job, right? So I don't know where then I went. And I don't know. I think we ended up kind of just mostly hanging out. But I mean, I still went. But I think, okay, so regardless of that night, I think just I started hanging out with all of you more. And I realized, they were like, oh, it's okay to just talk about sex and be open about sex and have group sex or go to sex parties or just openly talk about these things. Or if someone has a problem with a girl or whatever, it was just normal to talk about those things. And I'd never had that before.
I've got a question. How does it feel actually when going from, okay, fuck, I never spoke about this before, I was never open about this, I've never been to a sex party, never had a threesome, to where you're at now, where that is all like, I guess, relatively completely normal. Like, I guess, how would you describe that difference for yourself?
It was a learning process. So it didn't happen overnight. So I had to have like 5 shots of tequila before seeing you, because I was like, I'm going to need to be drunk for this.
That's awesome.
Like, I'm going to need to not know my own name if this is going to happen. So that was like the mindset I was in. I was just like, and I don't think I ever really spoke much about sex with you guys in the beginning. I think I was more learning and observing. But it didn't happen overnight. It was a slow process. So I think I started hanging out with you guys, and then probably over the next 6 months of just hanging with you guys more. And so I think that this is probably another point as to how it all ended up happening maybe is I'm a firm believer in, have you heard that saying where it's like, oh, you are like the 5 closest people that you surround yourself with? And I was surrounded by a bunch of people who are having lots of sex, talking about lots of sex, lots of escorts. And the 5 closest people around me for 6 months were sex workers or somewhere in that industry, or even if they weren't in that industry, they were like, super sexually charged and just open about it. And they were the people that I was hanging around with. So I kind of, it's not that I stopped hanging out with all my other friends, but I transitioned into more so hanging out with sex workers. And then I think then I was like the odd one out then. So I went so I just went to like, that was it became my new normal. So before I had only surrounded myself with finance people that just spoke about work, and you didn't talk about sex, and you just talked about how miserable you were. And that was normal because that's what the 5 closest people around me were talking about and doing. True. And then I shifted my surroundings, I guess, to people that were more open. And I think that is what helped me do that, because I could never have transitioned into this current life had I never met people that were in it. Because I always used to think, oh my God, I wish I could just quit my job and do OnlyFans. I used to think that all the time. I was like, I reckon I could do it. But that just wasn't, I just didn't think about it because everyone that I knew would have been like, you're absolutely mental. Whereas when I came to you guys one day said, I'm going to quit my job and do OnlyFans, you were all like, yes, finally, fuck your job.
Yes, I remember being
Let's film some content. Let's get this girl over. Let's film some content now.
That's literally what happened. The conversation was, I think I should start an OnlyFans. And I was like, I've got a girl coming over. Let's get some content right now. And she's like spanking your booty, like kissing you.
Dribbling things. It was body parts everywhere.
That's how it started.
Happened.
There you go.
But I needed... Look, I don't know if everyone is like this, but for me at least, and probably more so coming from that more conservative background, I needed some reassurance that what I was doing, transitioning to this new life, I needed backup. I needed, I needed that people there for me, because it was a big thing to go from being like so conservative in a safe job that it was safe. It was comfortable to all of a sudden going into this industry that, what if I don't like it? What if I don't make any money? What if something bad happens to me? It's a big step. So yeah, I think surrounding myself with those people, but I don't know if everyone has that, but maybe if people can listen to us, maybe we can be those 2 of those 5 people.
You're going to be the big sister.
Yeah, maybe we can be 2 of the 5 closest people and help someone else.
I like that. Tell me about, I know we had a list of things we want to speak about. And Kat's like, you motherfucker, you're just talking about whatever the fuck you want to talk about. I have a list here. But fuck the list. I've got a question.
Oh, God, I know. It's not good for OCD.
You got into escorting, right? Tell me about your first client.
Oh my God, you know what's so funny is that one of my clients yesterday wanted to hear the story as well.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so the story's fresh in my mind because I literally just told it last night.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't on the list I gave you, but I'm kind of interested.
Yeah,
I want to know about your first client.
I almost didn't stick with it after my first client.
Okay.
I was extreme. So how I started doing it. So I'll just give a little bit of really quickly before I get into the story. I'll just real quickly talk about how I actually got into the industry because I did start. It was a slippery slope. Okay. So I met you guys. All of a sudden I was friends with it's literally all your fault. I could have been a miserable.
You could have been a miserable
financial
good girl.
person.
Exactly.
That would be married with kids by now. Oh my God, could you imagine?
No.
No, I don't. Yeah, maybe not. But so, So I quit my job. That was step 1, and then I was like, fuck it. I'm just gonna get naked on the internet and do OnlyFans.
Sounds fair. Yeah.
I made enough money to, not have to eat 2-minute noodles every day.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it wasn't enough money to do grand things.
Yeah.
And as our listeners will eventually realize is I'm very high maintenance. I'm very
That's true.
expensive in every aspect of my life. Okay. So it was enough money for me to, get by, but it wasn't.
But not live the lifestyle.
Not buy new handbags and go on overseas trips and things. So I was like, okay, this is just not going to be enough for me.
Yeah.
I need to maybe explore some other avenues. So one of my escort friends at the time, because we did know a few, so I was asking them what's some other things I can do, and so a few of the girls were on Seeking Arrangements, that sugar daddy website. So I was like, oh okay, I was already on OnlyFans. I was like, maybe I'll try doing that. And I went on one date with one guy, and I guess we kind of made a bit of an arrangement. It was quite short-lived though. It probably only really lasted a few months because he's always traveling and things. But so I had sex with this guy that I met on that website. There was a connection though, so we did meet up and hang out for a little bit, and there was he was actually a really good looking, nice guy. There was definitely a connection there. So then I seen him again and he paid me and we had sex, but it wasn't like escorting. It was a proper date. We went on a walk and we had dinner, because Seeking is more like a girlfriend. It's not like a escorting where it's just you come in, you have sex, and then you kind of
okay, sorry, I've got so many questions for you.
Oh yeah.
When is the moment do you get the money? Because this is what I'm thinking, right?
Yeah, always up front.
So up front. So you go on the date and then he's hand you cash?
Oh, I don't. Literally within a minute of him entering.
So it's cash and then...
No. So how it works is I'll usually meet you, because usually I'll be staying in hotels or service apartments and things. So usually I have to go down to get you.
Yeah.
So usually I will meet them downstairs, and then we have the small talk kind of happens on the way up to the room. So usually we've had a little bit of small talk. They usually come in, they'll check out the room and be like, oh, this is a nice place. Are you from Sydney? There might be a little bit of small talk, and I'm like, yeah. And I stand. So I stand, and then usually they will give it to me up front.
Okay.
On the odd occasion where they don't, and sometimes, so I've either had it where they've either sat down.
Yeah.
And I will literally, so on the times where they will sit down, get there, and they're starting to make themselves comfortable, I will stay standing and be like, so was it just 1 hour that you wanted? And which service did you want? So
I'm talking about sugar daddy though.
Oh, okay.
So they're seeking arrangements, that you go on this date.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same thing, just money up front.
So how it happened was, I didn't really know, because this was the first time I'd ever technically been paid for sex, but I did kind of think in my mind, I should probably get the money up front. But luckily for me, he was a nice guy. He lived in some big mansion on the beach, right? And he was a really really good guy. So I walked in, and then we walked in through the kitchen, And he like tapped this envelope that was like on the table. He's like, oh, that's like for you. Let's just get that out of the way. Let's just pretend that didn't happen.
That's what I was wondering, because there's got to be an element of him being like, he's kind of creating a narrative where like he's telling himself like this is kind of real, which it sounded like there was some real emotion to it.
It's meant to be.
Yeah, but it sounds like he's creating this narrative of, okay, here's the money, like we got out of that way. Now let's kind of go into this role play.
It was literally like an envelope that he's just like, let's just like
okay, you got that. All right, now let's have our date. You're like, oh.
Well, I obviously had checked first that there was money.
Smart girl.
I turned around and was like, oh, yep.
It's like Monopoly money inside or something.
That looks right.
All right, perfect.
And then we got into like, you popped it a little while or whatever.
All right, so you started with this, and then I guess the thing is, okay, I'm kind of enjoying this. This like is a guy that are kind of into.
Oh no, so that we only went on maybe a few dates, and then he's always like kind of traveling and then whatever. But what the tipping point was to then get into escorting? Well, I guess it's a slippery slope. So it was OnlyFans, and then it was Seeking. So this is last year.
Yeah.
Mid last year, because I had only quit my job at the start of last year. Yeah. So I think at the end of March or maybe April was like when I was my last day, and then did a few months of like OnlyFans and this. There was really not much else to do. I was only making mediocre income from OnlyFans, and then one of our escort friends, she worked. I think at the time she was working in a brothel somewhere, and then the brothel closed down. So she was like, "Oh my god, I don't have any money." So then she started working for this like escort agency that I think still doing things. Probably weren't supposed to, but
on the down low,
so then I was like, she asked me like, do you want to start doing this? And I was like, this goes into my first time. I was like, I think that's not really what I see myself doing. I mean, like, I have a degree. And she's like, so?
I have a degree.
She's like, so? And I was like, and I was just like, this is going back to my old mentality. It was like, you either, I don't know, my old mentality was if you're smart, you get a degree. If you're dumb, then bad things happen to you. I don't know. That's probably not a good way of saying it, but it was
I understand.
If you can go to uni, you go to uni. And if not, then that's unfortunate to not do that. Even though nowadays uni doesn't mean anything, right? I'm probably hindered that I wasted so much time at uni compared to people that haven't been to uni. They've spent, a better part of a decade now working on businesses or
all my most successful friends are not using their uni degree or did not go to uni.
I'm somewhat using it, but not to its extent.
Yeah, exactly.
I could have done without it, definitely. So if anything, I think it actually hindered me wasting that. I don't want to say it was wasted, but I think it was time that could have been better spent.
I think there's an element of university or college that there's a social aspect of it. There is the aspect of, okay, you're required to go to a place for 4 years, show up on time, get things done. So there is that aspect of it, but actually like the content that you're learning at university or college, I think a lot of the time, as you said, you could learn somewhere else a lot more effectively or efficiently, or it's just not needed for the type of career that you end up in. Yeah. So I think there is some benefit to it. But anyway, so she says, okay, let's sign you in.
Yeah. So... And then I started working for this agency. Because she's like, look. So I was like, I have a degree. I'm not gonna be fuck. And she's like, look, you already fucked what's his name for money. It's the same thing. And I was like, it's not the same thing. It was the same thing. It's the same thing. Like just being a gold digger is the same thing. Okay. Right? It is. It's getting any kind of
self-appointed gold digger.
Yeah, any kind of payment for a service is a transaction. So even if you're not getting money for sex in a escort situation, if a guy's taking you out and wining and dining you and spending $500 on you for dinner and drinks, and then you go and have sex with him, it's the same thing, really. Fair. So anyway, she convinced me into giving it a go. She's like, you know what, just one person. Yeah. One client isn't going to traumatize your life. Just go one person. You have sex with one guy. You've had sex with lots of people already. Who cares? Mm-hmm. Just give it a go. Okay. You can literally do nothing. So I did. And this client was probably even to this day one of the worst clients I've ever had. So it was a really bad experience. Like his place was So it was an outcall
no.
to this place in Balmain.
Yeah.
And from the outside, it looked nice. And Balmain's a nice area. So it didn't look sketchy or whatever. And even on the inside, like the foyer and everything looked nice. But it was like this creepy bald guy in this robe. Like he kind of looked like, have you ever watched like
came out in a robe?
Have you ever watched the Da Vinci Code and there's that like bald guy in the robe?
But I'm going to quickly Google the Da Vinci Code bald guy.
Yeah. I hope that's the thing that I'm thinking of. Like he looked like a satanic, demonic, like, go to the images. No, wrong one. No, maybe Da Vinci movie. These are not. These are literally just sketches of bald men. It's Da Vinci Code. Him. See, like that.
Okay. Yeah.
This creepy guy.
Oh, that's kind of hot. Yeah? Comes out in a robe, all satanic. He's like, listen, this is what I'm going to do to you. Okay.
Yeah, and there was like, so a few other girls in the agency had seen this guy. And then later my agent ended up telling me like, oh, everyone thinks he's a priest because there was lots of like priesty things in there, like religious-y things. And there was a smell to the place, like incense. Like, so, okay, not like dead body smell, like incense smell, but bad. Like not a nice.
Oh, not a good incense.
Like, you know when you walk into like dusk or like one of those or Tree of Life and it's just too much.
It's too much.
Like, it's not like that, but like worse. And he's in this like robe and he's like this weird satanic bold looking guy. And he was like he was like creeping around and I was like, what
am I doing?
The hell, right? And then he was wired. And there was like crosses everywhere and like biblical looking things. And I was like, whoa, like this is too much. The whole place was like dark. It was like it was literally pitch black other than the TV. And I was like, can we get some light in here, yo?
That's
and he's
so
like,
funny.
I don't like light.
It's like light burns.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, wow, okay, I knew the vampire.
I've got to ask. Was there any kinkiness to the sex from his POV?
No.
He wasn't like fucking doing the cross as he's fucking you or something, or like chanting something.
Well, my eyes were, I don't know, they potentially.
My eyes were closed the whole time.
My eyes were closed like the whole time. I was literally just thinking, I was like, put yourself in a happy place.
Were you picturing like porn that you've watched or something? Or?
I was just picturing me walking out of there alive and in one piece.
Okay, that's the sexy thought. Living.
Yeah, so it was weird. Like, okay, look, he wasn't a dangerous guy. I got out of there. I got out of there fine. There wasn't any. It was weird, but it wasn't like dangerous weird.
No,
like,
but it was more built up in your head, probably, right?
Yeah.
Like this might have just been some
he was just a weird,
Christian
creepy dude
that was
yeah,
bold.
He was just a weird, creepy dude. He wasn't like some weird murderer or anything. He was
survived.
I did.
Okay.
I was on the lookout of anything that looked suspicious, and nothing looked suspicious in a dangerous way. It just looked really weird. And
but that was you were saying like you had much better experiences since then.
That was honestly one of the worst experiences. Even the sex was like he would kind of just collapsed on top of me, and then it was just very like robotic.
Yeah. Okay.
And it just smelled like incense. It was terrible.
I feel like this is for a lot of people I've found. Like smell is such a sense that is polarizing in a way. Right? Like if you think about other senses, like, yeah, sure. I've had girls that are like, I always talk about this one story about this one girl that needed Nicki Minaj to be playing. And it's hilarious. It was weird. Like the song was like loading and she like stopped having sex. It was a gangbang. She just stopped this. She's like, no more. I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, I need the song to be playing. So like, it's rare to find senses like that, but I think with smell, it's such a thing. Like if there's some smell that's off, like it's really hard to have good sex, right? Like it's one of those things that is like, it just hits.
It does.
So, okay, but that was, let's say, something that didn't hold you back from continuing this
It
show.
almost did. So I got into the car and I started crying. And then I called my friend that like convinced me to do escorting. Yeah, and I was like, fuck you, what the hell? And I like cried and talked to her on the phone like the whole way home. It was only like a 10-minute drive or whatever. Then I got home and I was like crying and she's like, oh my God, like that sounds terrible, but I promise you that just sounds like a really bad
it's not normal
booking. She's like, that is not normal. I was like, you're just lying to me. Like
you'd think she'd hook you up with a good booking at first.
Well, that's the agent's fault. Really.
Okay, yeah.
And looking back, I don't know the agency was stupid, and it was rubbish. And that is a telltale sign that you've got a bad agency when it's somebody's first time and then you're sending them to some group. And then she tells me later, like, yeah, none of the girls like that booking. if that's the worst
Thanks
client.
for letting me know. Yeah. Well, that's probably what they did, right? They're like, no one wants to go see this guy.
Yeah,
We got
so let's
this
just send this new girl who has no idea. And
Yeah.
that's basically what happened.
That's no good.
Which is not, like, really, don't send.
Have you ever thought about starting your own agency?
So many people ask me that. Look, no,
Not that
I haven't.
you don't have anything else to do.
No, honestly, nah. I feel like...
Kat's a very busy person.
Yeah, so... look, a lot of people have asked me that, and I don't think that is what I see myself doing. So, well, this is something that we'll learn this about me now, is like I want to eventually be a writer. So, yeah, an agency or like any other... Yeah, and managing other girls. So I know a lot of people that manage girls, even if it's not at a set agency, they like manage girls. And a lot of girls that do this, they're hard to manage. And I don't want to talk down people in my industry, because there's a lot of girls that do this that are super intelligent, super switched on, but it's like with any job. I worked in a financial services firm, and there are people that should not have been in that job.
I guess you're trying to get out of the whole management thing, right? Like that's what you're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
And then to get into management again.
Yeah, look, no, but it's really hard to manage other people, because it's hard to find competent staff in any industry.
Yeah.
If you want something done right, you got to do it yourself.
That's it.
Yeah, so
that's fair.
Yeah, and in an industry like this, when there isn't as many rules and regulations, it's hard to kind of keep tabs on people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Okay.
So came back, was blasting my friend for this terrible booking, and then she managed to convince me that it wasn't all like that. Okay. And I was like, she's like, please, just one more time. And I was like, oh, look, no. Yeah. So I was almost like, done. Yeah, I was almost done. She's like, look, I promise you, just one more. They're not all like that. And thankfully I listened to her. I don't know why. And I listened to her, and I did one more booking, and this next booking just set the tone for the rest of my time.
Okay, it was good.
Millionaire, hottie, mansion on the water.
Okay.
It was smoking. He was so smoking, some rich businessman with his like 20-story fuck off mansion right on the water. And I was like,
no incense, no crosses.
No,
happy days.
His apartment was immaculate. He's like, yeah, I get designers and cleaners. Like, come in, because I was asking, I was like, oh, like you decorate this place yourself. He's like, oh no.
I could imagine you going in, and the guy's like, okay, can we get started? You're like, hang on one second, I need to do a tour of this place. Hey, I like this.
Yeah.
I can imagine you living it up.
I was, and he was hot, and he was so nice. Like he like had like like took me to his, the kitchen. He's like, I've got fruit and cheese platter and
all right.
wine and nice bottled Evian and stuff. Perfect. And I was like, whoa, I was like, this is, and you could see we like open the blinds and there's just water and cliff top, and I was like, this is what I came for. And he was so hot too, so there was such a vibe. Like it kind of just felt like I had picked up this guy at a bar, like perfect. A hottie, and like he took me back to his place. That's kind of like, and I ended up being there for like a fair few hours, and he ended up booking me a few times after that, because we just had such a good time. And I thankfully that was the second booking that I got, because I was like, getting to have sex with these rich hot men that live in these bougie ass houses that I get to play wife in for a little bit. It was fun.
That's
so
awesome.
Then that's what kind of kept me into it. And obviously not every single client has been amazing, but it's been more good than bad. And it's
like every job, I guess, right? Like you're gonna have like good clients and bad clients. So sweet ass.
Well, that's probably enough of me talking about how I got into the industry. We were supposed to do this like all the way at the top, at the beginning of the podcast, but you like to tangent. So before you tangent,
I had to find out about you.
No more tangents.
Story. I had to find out about the first 5 years.
We're going back to the script. Okay.
All right,
you tell me about.
Tell me what's next.
So I've now we know my spiel. How did you? Like,
how did I?
I'm sure that many young men would look up to you and go, I want to fuck girls for a living.
It's so funny, because actually. Like, there's
guys can't do it like how girls do.
No, whenever I meet guys and like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm a sex coach. It's funny. You have this 5% of guys that are always like, I could do that.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah. There's always this 5% of guys that are like, I could do that.
No,
I'm like, you have no idea.
You've got no idea.
But it's Yeah, it's interesting. As I mentioned, I came from, I was very shy growing up, and I had that first girlfriend. Then we broke up after a couple of years. Well, she broke up with me after a couple of years. Then I got in a very serious relationship for like 4 years. And
I think I remember hearing about this. But you know what? I haven't heard much about this. So I'm with me and the listeners, we're hearing this for the first time.
Exactly. So I was in love. I wanted to get married. I wanted to have kids, right? Like that.
Jesus.
Yeah.
You wanted to be married with children?
5 kids.
No.
Yeah, swear to God.
Oh, that's so European.
Yeah. So that's, again, like that's the influence of the 5 people. That was my family. That was our culture. But there was a part of me that was always like, I feel like I'm missing out on something.
Yeah, there's something else.
Yeah,
right?
I feel like, and I think maybe my girlfriend at the time maybe had felt that. I'm not entirely sure, but she kind of as well got to the point where she's like, okay, like it's been years. Are we getting married? What's going on? And so it really became that decision. And I was like, fuck, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I am kind of missing. And in the end, credit to this girl. She was like, I'm not putting up with your shit. It's over. Out of nowhere.
Wow, that's
it felt
ballsy.
Out of nowhere.
That's really ballsy. Good on her.
Now that I look back, I'm like, this girl knows what's up. So
yeah. Good on her.
So I was not expecting that. And that at the time broke me. And I was like, yo. And so I tried getting her back, as you do. You messaging her like, I'm so sorry, I'll change. What do you do? And she was like, nah, we're done.
Wow.
Fucking bye, right? Like, so
good on her.
I was,
I need to message her for
respect to this
tips.
woman, right? And look, the type of sex we having was vanilla. Right, it was like I'd go down on her. Like I was always good at foreplay. Like I always, from a young sexual age, like when I started having sex, I enjoyed the girl receiving pleasure, and I think that's what brings me later into this story, into the job I do. But I really enjoy that. Like I get turned on when I hear girls moan. I get turned on when they enjoy it. Like I always enjoyed like foreplay, going down on her. But the sex and everything, it was fairly vanilla, like in all sense of the word. And so we broke up. And I was fucking lost, and I started going out, right? So I started going out to clubs, and by the way, still remember, I'm this guy that during this relationship did not like going to bars because I found it too socially awkward, right? Like I didn't like to dance. This was not me.
I feel like not much has changed though. You go
I don't
out.
like to dance?
I don't think I've seen you dance, have I?
Come on, man. You just don't like techno.
Maybe we just don't go to the same... I don't go to your little rave caves.
Exactly. You're missing the rave caves. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I go out now a lot of time to meet people as opposed to like drink and party. But so... Then that's what I started doing. I started going out a lot, and I was going out by myself and meeting people. And this is where I got into this whole, my first business was seduction. It's pickup. It's how to speak to people, how to speak to women, how to be more confident. And so I did this for a few years, just going out while I had my nursing job. And then,
I used to be a nurse.
I used to be a nurse.
Yeah, once upon a time, you had a normal job too.
I know, I did. I really enjoyed it though. I really enjoyed it. But then I started working for one of my friends who was teaching the same thing. So we'd go out and teach guys how to be more confident, how to understand themselves better, how to speak to women, because this is where I came from with my journey. Like over those few years, I got very good at this. I started going out and I'd be able to build attraction with women that I never had been able to before. And, so then, we started this business, and then, I went in with 2 business partners, but eventually I realized that something that I was missing was amazing sex, because I could go out and I'd be meeting these amazing women. I'd be taking them home or I'd be seeing them, but the sex was still somewhat vanilla in a way. And I felt like, again, I was missing something. And so I started to explore, and I kind of took on the same learning pattern I did that got me good with going out and meeting women, which was just fucking try and see what works and get feedback. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to getting good, I would ask them, like, if I'd go up to a girl, speak to her in the club, and she just wasn't interested, I'd go up to her later and be like, hey, quick question. I'm like, what can I do better? Right?
Is this how you got good at it?
Yeah.
Because it's actually very, what's the word? seeing you in action is great.
Thank you.
But now, I'm sure that it took a while to probably get to that stage.
I was super nervous to go speak to her. It took me months to be able to go up to a girl and say hi.
Wow.
Right? Months. But then I just dropped
and you
all my
you would
ego.
actually ask. So like you would go and hit on a girl, she'd reject you. Then a bit, obviously, you don't want to ask straight away because that's
what
a bit
I'd
weird.
say is I'd go up later and be like, look, I'm about to go, but I got a question before I go. She's like, what? I'm like, look, I've just broken up with my girlfriend. And I said this like at the time, but also the years after. Because
I was going to say, this sounds like a good line already.
I'll be like, look, your girlfriend just broke up with me. I'm trying to get better at going out. I'm like, can you tell us something I can do better? And now all girls will be like, just be yourself. It's fine. So you need to like really cultivate that feedback. And I'd say, no. One thing, what can I improve? Or like, do you like that I did this? Or like what? And then some girls will just straight up tell you, they're like, look, you just seem very nervous, or you don't speak loud enough, or you look down, or look, you were just ignoring my friend. I can't leave her. Or they'd be like, something like that. Like, no, I wanted to spend time with you, but I have to spend time with my friends. And so I basically took that learning style and brought it into the bedroom. And so I would ask girls after sex, how was it? And of course, like if you're a guy out there and you ask a girl, how was it? Every girl's going to be like, it was great. Yeah, exactly. It was. And then they get on the phone with their girlfriends and like, that was shit.
Yeah.
So this is actually what I do, Kat, is I'd say after sex we'd be laying there and I'd be like, look, can I be honest with you? And the girl's like, what? And I'm like,
you love saying that.
Can I be honest?
I've heard you use that
Can
line.
I be honest? Yeah. So then I'd be like, look, it was great, but it'd be so much better if, and then I give them feedback. So I'd give the girl feedback first. So I'd be like, it'd be so much better if you were a little bit more loud. I feel like you're holding back. It'd be so much better. Look, when I'm fucking you, you keep like wiggling around your hips and shit. Like I have a better flow when your hips are like still when we're fucking, right? So I'd give a little bit of feedback. Not harsh, but a little bit of feedback and I'd also compliment. Then I'd say, hey, what could I do better?
Yeah, and because you've already said it, they're more inclined to give you honest feedback.
Exactly.
Right?
And sometimes the more harsh you are, like if the girls get a little bit offended with your like feedback, they will tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Like if you tell a girl,
that's probably better, I guess.
Yeah,
that you
it is. It is. But the hard part about this is that you need to be willing to get that feedback because a lot of guys I know when they hear this, they'll just
get on the
ask.
defensive.
Yeah, exactly. And so the girl might say like, you know, at the beginning, it might have been very harsh feedback. Like, okay, you have no idea what the fuck you're doing. This is what you need to do. But as you get better and better, the girls will say things like, okay, it was too cold in the room. They'll say things like, this light's a little bit harsh. They'll say things like, okay, I'd prefer if you just choked me a little bit harder. No. So I would, girl after girl after girl, and even girls I was seeing, is just cultivate this feedback over and over again and get real feedback and then explore. And then I had myself coaches and mentors in Tantra, BDSM, Shibari. And so I'd travel around the world, meet these guys, take their lessons, take their courses, practice on all the women that I was seeing. And so without sounding too arrogant, I got very good. I got very good because I was able to listen.
Practicing. So I think that this is something that's important here, that guys, I think guys maybe, and I think it's not yet as openly or socially accepted for a guy to be like, oh yeah, like I took a course on how to have sex.
Exactly.
Or I took a course on how to do this. I've never, other than you, I've never once heard a guy say, oh, I took a course in how to do this.
Yeah. And it's fine to do with everything else in their life.
I've heard good reviews, so it sounds like it works.
Exactly, yeah. But it's okay for guys to get help in every other aspect of their life, but for some reason they're just expected to know how to fuck. And as we went through, like all the resources that guys usually go to is porn, which is very limited. It doesn't explore a lot of kink. And even like getting feedback off girls is something that's almost impossible for most men to do because of that ego that's surrounded around it. So we're going to talk about this in future podcasts and go into a lot more detail and everything like that. But for me, it was dropping the ego. It was getting feedback, getting that experience, asking other guys what to do, and just building up that experience. And also being willing to explore, because I've told this story before, but the first time I ever spanked a girl, I was disgusted by it, right?
Like really?
I remember this girl, she was international, maybe from like Denmark or something, and she was like, spank me. And I was like, okay, like, and she's like, no, like I'm fucking her from behind. She's like, no, hit me, like harder. Oh. So I'm like, she's like, harder. And then like, it got to a point where I'm like, oh, this is going to hurt now. She's like, harder. And then I'm like, I lost my heart on. I was like, this is weird.
I'm abusing you.
Yeah. And I was like the nice guy, right? I was like, And so in my head, I was like, there's something wrong with this girl. I'm like, and so I sat there like, are you okay? Like, why do you like this? Like,
some water.
I'm thinking like she's traumatized or some shit. Like, it was so bad. And so this was my first exploration. And I started understanding that, okay, girls do like this. They like to feel a little bit vulnerable. They might like to feel submissive. They like the sensation of impact. And so then I was like, okay, this is something that doesn't turn me on. But going back to like, I liked seeing the girls enjoy themselves. So then I started exploring, okay, what will the girls like? And so I started this exploration of BDSM that started with impact play, like hitting this girl. And then after some time, I'm like, I fucking like this. Like, I didn't realize, I was like, I like to take fucking control. Like, and now I'm at the point where I don't get turned on by anything more than taking control and like spanking a girl or getting a cane and inflicting pain. And it's like, that's something that I desire now, but I never would have known that if I didn't give it a chance.
Yeah.
And so being able to like explore things, and I always say, don't try it once, try it 3 times with different people, different scenarios. Like, there's some people, it's like, you should try everything once in sex. Just like with your escorting, you tried it once and you hated it.
Yeah.
You tried it twice and you loved it. And so I think you really need to be open to explore.
Yeah.
And was my journey. That's how I learnt and got into this.
I think that's definitely good advice, because I even know me, some of the things that I like, they kind of just happened in the bedroom. Well, yeah, this is going back to when I was a teenager, when I think there was really no topic. Consent wasn't really much of a big thing, right?
Yeah.
So it is now, and like, yes, you definitely should ask before trying some of these things in the bedroom now. But back when I was a teenager, I don't think consent wasn't a word that was thrown around, right? Because people didn't talk about sex full stop. So back when I was young, guys would just kind of do things
and I
in
think
the bedroom.
consent when we were growing up was, don't fuck a girl that's screaming at you no.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
it was like, if a girl has a knife
yes and, no.
and is coming at you to kill you, that's no.
Yeah, exactly.
And that literally.
Consent was, if the girl is pushing you away and screaming no, that is consent. It's not, hey, and we can have a consent episode
we'll come back to
about
this.
Like, what do you like? What do you want to try?
We can definitely come back to that. There's a lot more that we can unpack. But yeah, so at a time when I was a teenager and I was sexually active, that wasn't much of a thing. So guys would kind of just do things in the bedroom and I would either like it or not like it. And some of the things that guys would do, I didn't realize that I liked it until they did it. So, but maybe had they asked, I would have said no. I probably would have still said yes, maybe, because I was quite open-minded, even though I was, even at this time, much more conservative. I did have closeted desires that I knew that there was, I always knew that I had all this sexual energy. So I remember the first time a guy ever choked me, he just kind of put his hand around my neck. It wasn't hard. I could still breathe. But I was like, I remember freaking out, going, like, there was lots of things going in my mind. I was like, oh my God, like, can I still breathe? Like, first I was kind of like checking my breathing. I was like, okay. Like, and then so once I was like, okay, a few seconds has gone past, I can still breathe. Okay, I'm not dying. It's not murdering me. Like, this is a thing. I had seen it happen in porn, but like never had it happen to me. So I didn't know how to react. And then started thinking, and then I was like, wait a minute, I like this. And then I started to, once I got over I'm not being murdered.
He's not killing me.
Hang on.
Nice.
This is good. And like, even I think the first time a guy like put a finger in my bum, I was like, whoa.
I'm alive.
I haven't shit myself.
Like it.
There's no shit coming out.
It's
Okay.
trial by fire, really.
Yeah,
right?
well, I mean, at that time it kind of was when I was growing up, but and I probably there might have been a few things that maybe I didn't really like. Maybe I'm trying to think. Maybe there were a few things that I didn't really like the first time I did it, but yeah, definitely I think explore at least more. Yeah, what you say, three-ish times, definitely. Yeah. Because you really don't know what you like until you try it.
100%. And it's interesting, our exploration of that, because I think it is from like sex expectations, let's say. It's usually the guy that's introducing or doing a lot of the exploring. The girl's kind of like, I'm not sure if I like this, let's give it a go. But I think it is important for both men and women to really try to figure out what they want. So I think it's important for the girl as well. And it's harder for women, I will say, because it's more socially acceptable for a guy to talk about sex and talk about what he likes and maybe kinks that he wants to explore. I think it's harder for girls, and they probably will face more pushback from guys. Like I even thinking back to myself with my first girlfriend, if she came to me and was like, yeah, I want you to choke me, or this girl was like, yeah, I want you to spank me, I was like judging. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
right?
I had never heard anyone say things like that.
Exactly.
I mean, I didn't even tell anyone that I got choked, because I think I would have been like 16 or something at this time. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want anyone to think that I'm
like what's wrong with me?
Yeah, like people are going to judge me that I let this guy choke me. Yeah. And then I was even judging him, even though I liked it. And we were kind of fuck buddies at the time. Yeah. I even was slightly judging him, like, is he sick for choking me in the bedroom? And am I sick that I like it?
Yeah, exactly.
So there was a lot. I was like, well, we're both sickos.
Yeah.
And that's wrong that I was thinking that, but it was what I was thinking at the time. I was like, I can't talk about this because we're both sick. Yeah, this is what I was essentially thinking.
And so I think, like, to everyone listening, no matter what your kinks are or what you explore or what you like, my view on it is it's normal as long as you both understand the risks, you both consenting to it, and you're not hurting anyone else, right? And I think if your kink kind of falls under that category, then go for it. It's normal, right? There's a lot of pleasure around sex that is related to the idea of tabooness, is related to the idea of it being dirty or it being wrong, or, you know, even if we think about all the, let's say, more popular kinks, which might be, you know, public sex, for example. It's like, why do we like that? It adds an element of excitement. It's a little bit wrong. You might get caught. So no matter what the kink is, well, no matter what you're exploring, I think it's important for all of us to be open-minded to that and kind of see what you like.
A little add-on with the kinks. I feel like, and I think I wrote a blog post about this as well. I have a lot of blog posts. Yeah. So there are some kinks that you kind of can't really be open about yet, I think. For instance, you know, like the golden showers, brown showers. You can't really, I mean, things like little kinks like choking and things. You can be, but I mean, so I'm only just adding this disclaimer here. If you're a guy who has kinks that might be a bit left of center, I don't know, what would you more extreme?
So if a guy rocks up and is like, yo, I want to shit on your chest, yeah, it's okay to say no. This is what I would say. You want to be open to exploring things. It doesn't mean you have to. But what I'm saying is, say a guy, let's pick the extreme example, rocks up, you're on a date, you guys go home together, you talk about what you like, and he's like, yo, I want to shit on your fucking chest. I love it. Right? This is where it's completely okay to be like, I'm not comfortable with that. Yeah. Right? This is a part of what I haven't tried before. I don't want to try with you. I don't have that trust yet. It's something that's going to actually really turn me off. Like, there's other extreme examples. Like, if I rock up and I'm like, yo, it'd be so hot if I fucking shave your head. Yeah. Right? This is the example I use. Because sometimes with women, I'll say, okay, like, tell me, is there anything that you're not into? What do you want to explore? Like that, and they'll be like, anything. I like everything. And
then you say, oh, I'm going to shave your head.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to tie you up, going to give you a massage, and I'm going to shave your hair off. They're like, hell, what? I'm like, no, that's my kink. That's what I like. They're like, no. I'm like, this is why we need to talk about it, right? And so, yeah, being open to everything is good, but you need to start somewhere, right? So it might be, even when it comes to bondage, I speak about this with women, right? Like, maybe you don't want to be tied up and hung from the ceiling at first, but maybe you want to try a very loose knot around your wrist that you're able to take off, but kind of has the idea and the psychological feeling of it, you know, psychological feeling of it. So yeah, when I say be open to everything, I'm not saying you have to try everything, you have to do everything. What I'm saying is start somewhere. Have an open mind. You can say no 100%, of course, right? But just start by having a little bit of an open mind and start exploring. And
if you are a guy listening and you do have those more extreme kinks, there are professionals who provide
You're like, I've got a friend.
Not me. I don't do the brown showers or the golden showers. I tried to once. So I had this one. Most escorts will have like a list of things they do. So if you do have something specific, I get asked the most weirdest things, like foot jobs. Not that's that weird. I don't want to say weird. I don't want to like put negative connotations on these things.
I think you can call it weird. I like weird.
No,
right?
I don't know. That sounds like it's a negative connotation.
No, but listen, we're weird. We're weird. You just
not in our group. We're not.
But to me, like, you're right.
we're weird to other. We're not weird to the people that we hang out. The way I
think about it is like, I'm happy being weird. It's okay to be weird. Like, to me, weird is just different. So when you're saying like weird foot jobs, you don't mean it in like this negative way where you're like,
it's different.
Like, yeah, it's different.
It's just different. So I would say that like majority of the like things that I get asked about are things that probably a lot of girls wouldn't do. So yeah, foot jobs, anal. A lot of people do ask me about like golden showers and things. And obviously I don't, or bondage and things. I don't provide every single service, but I do notice that I do get a lot of requests from people who want to explore these things and they're hiring a professional because maybe they haven't found someone that
they feel more comfortable.
Let's just say you do want to explore peeing on someone and you can't find a girl that's into that. There are professionals that do those things. And so I did have this one guy that wanted me to pee on him, and I didn't offer it as a service, but he just said he was infatuated with me specifically. It had to be my pee.
You are the girl.
It had to be my piss. It couldn't be anyone else's piss. And I was like, look, I really tried hard to tell this guy. I was like, look, there are professionals that can help you. I can find someone, talk to people, and send you to someone. I can refer you to someone. And he's like, no, I want it to be you. And I was like, okay, look, you can come over and I can try, but I have pee fright.
This is hilarious.
I can't even pee in front of my own friends or my mother.
Before he comes around, you're just chucking water.
I was trying to, but see, professionals.
They know what's up.
They know what's up. They have mats and equipment.
Yes.
I had none of this stuff. Like I was there trying to drink water.
The pee equipment.
Yeah, I didn't have all the equipment, and I didn't even know how to be. I was more this poor guy. I was more nervous than him, and I was like, "How do you do this?" And I was like, "Have you done this before?" I was freaking out. I was like, I don't have a towel, and I don't have a mat. And he's like, "No, that's fine. I can just lie in the shower." I was like,
I was gonna say, shower's the place to go.
And I was like, squat, and I was like, "Do I squat?" He's like, "Yeah, you just like squat on my chest." And I was like, naked squatting, and like I was almost crying because I was like, "I just can't do it."
All right, did you get there in the end?
No, I didn't. I didn't get there. But what this story
now
I guess shows
is... Now you know how men feel sometimes. They're trying to get hard and they're like, what the fuck do I do? And then the girl's looking there. This is exactly what's going,
But yeah, so if you're into something, there are plenty of professionals that you just look at lists of services and they can guide you through it. So I do get, so there are things that I will do that like, so there's a lot of guys that are like, oh, like I really want to try this position or I want to try doing this or whatever it may be. And you know, me as a professional, I can kind of guide them through that if it's something that I do more often. And it's probably a little bit, do
you get many guys asking for advice? Like asking you how to fuck better? I've been curious. I've never asked you this.
I have had a few inquiries about people that are like, oh, can you give me tips? But usually they're not like serious people. They're like, oh, they're trying to get a free fuck. So like whenever I've had a guy ask for tips, like I'll get like a message from a guy and he'll be like, oh my God, it's my first time. Like, you know, can you just like teach me? Maybe we can just like hang out. And I'm like you have to still pay.
That's hilarious.
And I'm like, I can teach you what to do, but you still got to pay me.
Yeah, like, maybe extra.
And then like then they just never reply. So I'm like, are you trying to get free sex out of me? Like, I don't know how you thought that would work. But there's been a few guys that have like asked for like, oh, like how was I? And I get nervous telling guys. So I like when you were saying like, oh, it's better to give a little bit of criticism to then get it back, because I feel like if a guy did give me something, I would probably definitely be more inclined to give something back. But I don't want to break these guys' spirits, because a lot of the time, sometimes they are guys that maybe just don't get out enough. They work too much. Maybe they're divorced. And I'm like, I don't want to break these guys.
How do you tell them that?
I don't want to break these guys' spirits by telling him that he's shit.
Yeah. And a lot of these guys, I think, are asking for validation, right?
Maybe.
I think so. Because... yeah, it's hard. Like, if that's me in your situation, it's like, what do you do? Because either they generally want feedback and they're going to be completely okay with hearing it and you give it to them and it's great. But I honestly, knowing men and doing this as a profession, teaching men, a lot of them aren't ready to hear feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is sad.
I think a lot of people have. I mean, if I had a client that just like... went to town on me with like it's all these criticisms, I don't think I'd be ready to hear it, to be honest. I don't think I asked for feedback. Oh, actually I do sometimes. Maybe if something weird happens, like if a guy can't get it up, I'm like, oh my God,
is it me? Yeah,
like can I try something different? Like do you want me to put a different outfit on or whatever? But they're not like just like, oh my God, no, you're terrible. Usually it's like, oh no, like I had a few drinks.
Yeah, of course. It's always,
I don't think I really asked for feedback, but that's probably, maybe.
It's awful. It's awful.
Probably people should ask for feedback more.
Yeah. And I think if there's any girls out there that want to give feedback, I think there's a way to do it as well, right? I think
Enlighten us.
Yeah. So I think double checking. So when a guy's like, hey, was that good? Or I think double checking and be like, do you want me to be honest? Do you want the honest truth, right? And if the guy hesitates, yeah, then just be like, yeah, it was good, right? It was great, whatever. But if he's like, no, yes, like I want you to be completely honest, then just frame it positively.
Yeah.
Be like, look, it would be so much better if, right? So not, this is what you can do better, this is what you can fix.
Or like, this was shit.
Yeah.
This could be better.
It would be so much better if you were more rough with me. It would be so much better if, look, I love my pussy being eaten, right? You grabbed me and fucked me like right away, which is kind of hot. But it'd be so much better if you ate me out for a little bit first, right? Because I know there's a lot of girls out there with boyfriends even, and they're like, fuck, like perhaps they do want to try something. And it's like, how do I bring it up? How do I bring up with my partner that I do, let's pick something arbitrary, whatever. I do want to be tied up. Because now if I tell him that, immediately what the guy thinks is I'm not good enough and I'm missing something. Whereas if you frame it more as, hey, like I love having sex with you, it's amazing. Like we should try something and explore things together. Like, what do you want to try? The guy's like, I don't know. Then you can say like,
suggest.
I think it'd be so hot. Like I had a dream, like I had this fantasy of you like getting some handcuffs and just tying me to the bed. Like, I don't know, it was in my dream and it was so hot and you would like look so in control. It'd be so hot to try. That is more inspiring for the guy to do if you say, yeah, look, I think this is what we're missing. Or I think this, So giving feedback the right way is a tough thing to do, but I think it's important.
In those situations, which I think this happened to me with this boyfriend that I was dating when I was like, maybe from the ages of like, it was like, I dated this guy for like 3-ish years, from maybe 18 to like 20 or something. And we'd been dating for a long time and had a lot of sex. And we did get to a point where the sex got boring. And I always knew that I wanted to try more things. Like I wanted to experiment with being tied up, him being rough. And I kind of knew that I was submissive, but I think he was also submissive. So it didn't work.
Yeah.
And then we ended up breaking up, and we broke up for kind of different reasons, but I feel like really why we broke up is because the sex just kind of died a bit. Like it was kind of fun at first just because it was just fun. But then when it started being, I was like, oh no, I don't, like, he didn't really like taking control. I didn't like taking control. We both kind of ended up fumbling around. And then when I would suggest like, oh, hey, can you tie me up? And I mean, he did try, but he was submissive. So he wasn't really into it. And then he was like doing it. It wasn't getting him off. So then he was fumbling and I was like, what the hell? And then our relationship ended up not really working. And I feel like because we weren't sexually compatible, that's what kind of then caused all of the other problems in our relationship. Because I mean, if you're not having sex in a relationship, that is the problem number one. Which I'm sure you agree that sex is like the most important thing. To be sexually compatible.
It's a good like litmus test, right? Because I think if you have problems outside of the bedroom, then you're probably not going to be having sex, right? And if you're not having sex just because of sexual compatibility, it's going to cause problems again outside the bedroom. So I think it is a huge factor in like relationship happiness or compatibility. And sexual polarity, like what you spoke about with that scale of like dominant and submissive or top and bottom, is most of the time the foundation of amazing sex is having that polarity. And
because if you're both the same, it's just not going to work. You're
missing something.
If I'm just lying there and then he's just lying there. Someone's got to take charge,
exactly,
right?
I always relate it to dancing, right? Like the Latin dances, like salsa, bachata. Like if you have two people that aren't leading, you're not going to have a good dance. Like you need to have that polarity. Now, depends on your relationship. You can swap. You can have times where someone is the top, someone is the bottom, but you need to have those kind of clear, distinct roles. And it can be different to what it's like outside of the relationship, right? Like outside of the relationship, you could perhaps have more of a balanced power dynamic, but sexually speaking, amazing sex relies on that polarity.
Yeah.
And in this case, yeah, I mean, sometimes it relies on the guy being able to explore a little bit, being able to understand himself a bit more, being able to find out, is he a switch? Does he like being dominant at times? Is that something he can do to give you a better time in the bedroom? And it's
We're talking about switching it up. I don't think I would ever enjoy being dominant.
No, I mean,
could you ever enjoy being submissive?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
To a certain level, right? Yeah. To a certain level. So sometimes
I get very suspicious of guys, like clients of mine, where they're like, and sometimes I'll like ask them maybe like, when we're talking, I'm like, oh, like, what do you like or whatever? And if they're like, oh, like I like being dominant and submissive, I'm like,
what do you
must
mean?
Be shit in bed. That's the first thing that I think. Well, if you don't know what you like,
I mean,
have you ever had sex?
there are definitely people that are switches and do enjoy sharing different elements of sexual energy depending who they're with. Now, oftentimes, like sometimes girls will be like, I'm dominant. And oftentimes what I find is that when I'm with them, they're very submissive and love it and enjoy it and feel like they've missed this opportunity because they're often dominant because their partner, like they just had to take control, like they just had to lead. And so there are different elements to it, but there are certainly some people that enjoy doing both. And there are times where I like to be able to, let's say, vary the level of dominance that I have on that spectrum. So sometimes, I do like perhaps laying down and the girl giving me a massage, right? Now, I don't want to be like tied up and pegged, for example. That's something I'm not into. But there are different elements of where the girl can take perhaps like a little bit of control in the situation. And for me, on my spectrum, that would be my switch, right?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. For me, I love taking control. I love being dominant. For you, you like being able to let go. You like being submissive.
Oh, yeah.
And people will find themselves on different elements of that spectrum, and it will change. As I said, like I enjoyed vanilla sex before, and if you asked me to spank a girl, I'd fucking lose a heart on. Whereas now it's like it makes me even more fucking erotic. So yeah, it is important to kind of discover and figure out what you want. All right. What else is on your list? Should we?
I think should we wrap up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up here. So thank you guys for joining us on this first episode. We will, in the next few weeks, be exploring different topics. We'll be having different segments. So if you have any questions, send them in. We'll give you the details for that in a second. We've got some ideas. We're probably going to, we're talking about porn today. We're probably going to watch some porn today and break it down, give some tips and tricks.
Yeah, so that's something, I'm sure if you've heard of Gogglebox, where you watch people watch TV. Well, we're going to do like a Goggle
porn box.
Porn box.
We'll come up with a good name for it. I like it so far.
Watch us watch porn, and we can break it down for you. Really, we'll have to probably find some natural-ish looking pornos. Not the ones that are for camera, the ones that look a little bit more
I reckon
natural.
we can mix it up. We can do a bit of everything.
And
we'll talk about everything in sexual topics.
We're going to hopefully get some people on.
Masturbation, gangbangs. We'll have people coming in. We'll go through how to give more pleasure, how to experience more pleasure. We'll go through poly relationships. We'll do some sex toys reviews. We'll give some recommendations for sex toys. We're going to go through everything. If you have any recommendations, chuck them up. Otherwise, if you want to get in contact with us, Kat, how can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, so you can find me on pretty much all of the socials. I'm on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and OnlyFans, all at the same username. It's at Katija Cortez, KatijaCortez. I also write a blog, probably not the best for reaching out to me. There is an email on there, but yeah, if you want to reach out to me, probably best to DM me on like Instagram or Twitter or something. But yeah, my blog, it's called sexandsydney.com. So I write a lot of articles. I tell a lot of stories on there. I also do diary entries of things that happen in my life. So you can reach out to me in any of those avenues. And yourself?
Fuck yeah. And I'm going to go old school here. You can email me.
Showing your age.
Markus, I'm an old man. Markus at orgasmicblisscoaching.com. So you can shoot us an email there. And we'll also, I'll have some socials and stuff up next week for everyone so they can find me on there. But for now, shoot us any messages, questions that you have, and we can answer them on the show. Otherwise, once again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, and happy sex, everybody.
Yeah, I like that. All right, perfect. All right, take care. Bye-bye.